Welcome to All Horse Racing All the Time. I'm Alan, your host, bringing you a Pegasus World Cup Invitational recap. Skippy Long Stocking? What's that all about? Here I'm going to take a look at the race, the implications. Well, one of the big implications is that race was a win and you're in the Breeders' Cup. So Skippy Long Stocking now suddenly qualifies for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll take a look at that last. We'll take a look at this race. A lot of people scratching their heads. I didn't use Skippy Long Stocking in my plays. If you saw my shows last week on this race, covering this race with guests Robert Finero and John De Silva, my pick in that race was White Abarrio, and the other guys didn't agree. A lot of people didn't agree. They thought the horse was finished. Anyway, I picked that one on top. How did I use him? I used him on top in Exactas. And how did that go? And what about Skippy Long Stocking? I didn't know. He was a toss for me. Probably a toss for most players because look at the odds. He went off at, 21-1? 21-1. Should that be a big surprise? Well, looking back on this race, what took place here, I missed it. I missed it, folks. I should have nailed that exacta. I should have boxed it or done something with it. And that's, looking back, in hindsight, this was a very, very easy exacta with this 21 Skippy Long Stocking on top. Because if you look at the record of those two horses, White Abarrio and Skippy Long Stocking, both have excellent records. White Abarrio, especially 8 of 10. Skippy Long Stocking had won a bunch of races in 12 starts, great finishes, good times over at Gulfstream Park. They both loved the track. Number one, they both were older, fully developed horses, fully fledged horses now, right? Experience on the track. Their trainer is one of the big shots at that track, one of the best trainers, Safi Joseph Jr. It was easy. It was like taking candy from a baby looking back. What did those two do? They went out there and they bullied around the new 4-year-olds. You know, some of the ones that never raced against older horses before. Disco Time. What an overrated horse. What, beat up on a bunch of nobodies, right? You know, I look back now to be undefeated. That was like one of the easiest undefeated records I've seen. Yeah, he did beat Magnitude in one of the races early last year, but he didn't beat much. His times, his sheet numbers, you know, they told the story. With the exception of his last race, they were slow. They were slow. Horses like Owen Almighty dwarf Disco Time. You know, what happened to Owen Almighty? I guess, I don't know. He's been racing a little bit, but that's just one example of a now 4-year-old that would dominate Disco Time if he faced him. But Owen Almighty wasn't in that race. And the other ones, Captain Cook, Poster, what happened? Tappan Street. These two horses went out there and basically bullied that 4-year-old group. Micah, what happened to Micah in that race? Okay, let's take a look at the race first. But should Disco Time have been a big shock? Absolutely not. Disco Time, Skippy Long Stocking have been a big shock? Absolutely not. Him and White Abarrio, you know, they pretty much run very strong at that race. And now they're 7-year-olds and they were taking on the young crop. Still colts, right? Should have been no surprise. Did anybody think that really should Disco Time have come in there? But I would have thought it might have been Tappan Street, but even Tappan Street was taking a lot of money, which surprised me. His numbers were too slow compared to the others. Even in his comeback race, he was kind of slow. What did Tappan Street do? He just wasn't ready to run. He didn't look like he really. Maybe he isn't fully back from that long layoff. Yeah, he won that optional claiming race, but so he did nothing, right? What are some of the other factors that went on there? Well, Skippy Long Stocking stayed back. Nice move. He didn't try and make a premature move. And he came on and ran down White Abarrio. White Abarrio ran his typical race. Tracked the leaders, took over on the turn. Coming for home, he looked home free. All right. So and this horse, I don't know why. Maybe he wasn't in condition yet because he hadn't run for a while. He was scratched out of the by vet scratch at the Breeders' Cup. So he came out, and then he was, wasn't ready to run. He was supposed to run in the race that Skippy Long Stocking and won and supposed to finish second, and he wasn't sound enough for that. So maybe with the layoff, he got run down. He got caught, but he looked great on the track. I'm curious to see what kind of numbers come back, but he ran an excellent race in finishing second. And Skippy Long Stocking, yeah, he was more in form. He had that race. He had that comeback race in December. So, on the track, which he won here at Gulfstream. So he got the job done. And White Barrio, yeah, he, came in a gallant, gallant second place, really. I mean, they ran 1-2. And the other's Micah. I don't know why this one didn't show any speed. Full Serrano, whatever. He, ran a decent race, coming in third. But still, even that one didn't show any of the speed that I expected from him. Micah, I'm most surprised with. But as far as the others go, this really shouldn't have been no surprise. Poster, that one bothered me a little bit because that one had run a very, he battled right down to the wire with Skippy Long Stocking in the last race. And this time he was, on the backstretch in that. He was kind of there along with Skippy Long Stocking. And he didn't make his typical move. He kind of, disappeared. Poster disappeared. When he typically, they go, Junior Alvarado, this time he didn't go. So maybe, he missed Flavian Pratt, but he didn't go. He didn't go, and he kind of dropped out of it. And it came down to a 2-horse race. Nice race by Captain Cook in finishing fourth. I believe this one, he suited the owners there. He's, businessman in the track. That's his local track right near home. Yeah, why not enter him? He's done great at 7 furlongs, Captain Cook. And maybe they'll go back to that distance, which he seems to do very well there. What he was doing in a 1.125 race. He laid the egg in the Wood Memorial last year when it looked at Aqueduct when he was trying to qualify for the Derby. He was entered. That's too much for him, but I think it was a very nice showing, getting 4th place. And you guys, it's a nice paycheck there. But what does this all mean going forward now? Winning, you're in. Before we get to Skippy Long Stocking, what about White Barrio? They were saying that, if he would have won the Breeders' Cup Classic, whatever, they're probably going to retire him. That they didn't want a horse like that to go out on a low note, which it would have been. And they bring him back now, and suddenly he comes in second in the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Is he going to continue? We're going to have to keep our eye on that, White Barrio. Well, we know he's not going to run again. They've made it clear, the connections. He's not going to run again in Florida because there's not going to be another G1 over there for the horses that fits his class or his distance. So, and that's his dominant track. He's had 8 wins there now out of 11, and he damn near won it yesterday. So is White Barrio going to continue? Maybe they want to put him out on a win. Do they send him to Saratoga again? He didn't do well at Saratoga last summer. So, in the one race he ran 4th. It was a pretty good race. He ran well. I don't know why they ran him so wide or they kept him back. But the next race he lost his iron, and that pretty much took him out of it. But even in those 2 races, he put up solid Thorograph sheet numbers, especially in the Whitney. I believe he put up a -3, which was as fast as he's ever done. The lower the number, the faster the race. As fast as he's ever done, with the exception of like one of his earlier years. I think he put up a -6, some crazy number, and he -4 another time. But he was still running fast, and he did win this race last year, and he almost became the first horse to repeat as this Pegasus World Cup champion. Damn near had close to repeat, but Safi Joseph Jr., hats off to him. having the 1-2 finishers, and both of them, Skippy Long Stocking and White Barrio, they're stablemates. They hang out together all the time. And what happened in that race was White Barrio leading, and then Skippy Long Stocking recognized him and says, hey, what are you doing, buddy? Here I come. And he maybe put an extra boost to catch his friend. I don't know. Who knows? It wouldn't surprise me, really. They probably recognize each other, right? Anyway, so White Barrio, stay tuned. Is he going to come back? I don't know. Now, what about Skippy Long Stocking? He's another one now. Suddenly, there was thinking about, hints about him with his retirement. Also, late last year, and now all of a sudden he qualifies for the Breeders' Cup, and he's 7 years old. So they're going to put him now suddenly back in training, and how? I guess the best thing they could do at this point, well, what they're probably not going to retire him now that he qualifies, putting on space out his races and put together a campaign. And along the way, he's already in, right? So there's no hurry to get him back on the track. And he's won 2 straight now at Gulfstream. He's won 2 straight following a significant layoff of months, multiple months, right? So space the races out, and I believe that's what he's going to do, but stay tuned for that as well. Space the races out, maybe enter him in. I don't know if they're going to do any shipping since the Breeders' Cup. No need to ship him around because the Breeders' Cup's going to be at Keeneland this year. So let's see what happens. Let's see what Safi decides to do with Skippy Long Stocking. But I believe, we're going to see more of him when it looked like he was reach the end of the road. Now suddenly he's in the mix for the Breeders' Cup. Does he have a chance in the Breeders' Cup? I don't even want to look at that yet. You figure who the horses are going to be in there, Forever Young and everybody else. But that would be a great story to see him running against these top horses. And imagine if he wins the Breeders' Cup. And how about Safi Joseph Jr. crying after the race? Let's go to that for a second. So we covered the horses. What about Safi? The interview has now gone viral, crying after the race. After the race was over, of course, he was thrilled about Skippy Long Stocking, but of course, I don't know if he was crying more tears of joy or for Skippy Long Stocking finally winning that elusive G1, or was he crying because of White Barrio losing? He wanted him so badly to come back. He didn't want him scratched out of that Breeders' Cup. He didn't believe anything was wrong with the horse. The vets, they're the ones that took him out of there in the Breeders' Cup. He was ready to go. And then after it was announced that he was scratched, he galloped off the field, off the track like nothing was wrong. But then again, he wasn't sound enough to go in the December race with Skippy Long Stocking and Poster. So, but what are they going to do with what? Was he crying tears of joy for crying out of sadness because of White Barrio not winning? Well, part of it, his emotions were all over the place. Thrilled for Skippy, thrilled for the G1, thrilled for coming first, second in the Pegasus World Cup Invitational, and also maybe tears of sadness for White Barrio. What do you think? Leave it in your comments down below. Was Safi thrilled for what reason? He was probably crying for about 3 or 4 different reasons. It makes for a great story. I felt glad for Skippy. I wanted to be right with White Barrio, and the horses I used under White Barrio, they did nothing. I played them in an exacta, right? White Barrio on top of 4 horses. Full Serrano came in 3rd, big deal. I didn't see him the whole race. Banishing David Jacobson. This horse had thoroughbred numbers up the kazoo. I think he had 6 negative numbers for the season, lower the number the faster the race. So he had numbers below 0, which are fantastic. And he had Jose Ortiz up, open at 20-1. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And the other one, Poster let me down. No sign. Gave up. I was looking. I saw White Barrio there. I kept looking for my guys, the other horses. They never showed up. They were nowhere to be found. Oh, and the other one, Micah. Micah, the front runner. You look at the running lines. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Going across. No sign of him. No sign of him. Nowhere near the lead. What happened? I don't know. Either way, it was a great race. Great storyline. And it was an exciting day of race. It was an exciting race to cover and follow. And the Pegasus Cup. Yeah, it was a great race and a lot of fun. And a lot of disappointment and a lot of emotions. If you saw Safi Joseph Jr., you get the idea. Look at the people. If you were at the track, seeing people rip up tickets, you get the idea. What do you think? Skippy Long Stocking, White Barrio. What are they going to do? What do you think the next move is? Stay tuned. We'll have our finger on the pulse. Thanks for watching, everybody. And may the horse be with you.